So I'd love to start with a kind of broad-ranging question to both of you, looking at these themes, authenticity, transparency, and identity, and how they impact the world of design and retail as you've seen it over the last, say, 3 to 5 years in your own experience. And I'm looking at you, Simon, because you're immediately to my left. So I'll start with you.
I guess in general terms, fashion retail is what I know most about. And 20, 30 years ago, it was a very small landscape. You know, those of you who lived in New York in the 70s or early 80s remember there was really nowhere much to shop. There was no Banana, no Gap, no H&M, no Topshop, no nothing. It was, I remember most of my friends, we wore vintage clothes, and if you had money, you could go to Barney's or whatever. But it was a much smaller landscape, and Fashion Week was a very small occurrence. It was like a little trade show of about 12 people maybe that showed. So cut to now, it's the fashion landscape is basically unlimited. It's so huge. The retail fashion landscape is limitless. And fashion, if you look at old movies from like a movie like Manhattan or something like that, people don't even mention shopping. You know, when they wake up on a Saturday morning or something, they go to the park, or they always, in Woody Allen movies, they're always going to see an old movie, some vintage movie. So fashion, shopping went from being something you did if you were very superficial to something that was like a legitimate pastime. So there has been this gigantic revolution in terms of the way people perceive retail and fashion. And there are those two aspects to it. It's an infinitely larger landscape. And I always say to people, when that started to happen, it was very confusing. You just thought, holy shit, like these fashion shows seem to happen, but the trends are indiscernible and you never see them manifest themselves into anything. Well, you can't, because the landscape's so huge. And there's a million different ways to present yourself now, and they're all equally valid. Like, trends tend to go onto this landscape and they just stay there, you know. And people say, "Oh, military's back." Well, it never really went away. It's just there. So what it is, it's gone from being a designer-driven landscape to a consumer-driven one. So essentially, you have your own look now. If you want to be Jackie Kennedy, you can be Jackie Kennedy. If you want to be Dita Von Teese, you can be Dita Von Teese. If you want to look like a Jersey Shore chick, you can do that. Like,
though why anybody would love anything, please.
Well, the thing is,
spent my summers in Jersey growing up. It's a bit of a.
To me, all those things are equally valid. They're just different ways to present yourself. Yeah. So it's an immensely complicated landscape, and that people are always trying to make sense of it, but really, you kind of have to surrender to it, and it doesn't make any sense. The key is to have your own look that you like, that you can go after. That's an important thing today, I think, rather than trying to find a way to be. You have to just kind of figure it out and then go shopping for it. Does that make any sense at all?
It's overwhelming right now. And I remember you were talking about the 70s. And I think what kicked this whole thing off was the Calvin Klein jean with the little white label on the back pocket. You remember that? And that was the beginning. And the Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress in the late 70s. And now it is just so expansive. And I think with what's happening with social media is it's gotten even that much bigger. And it sort of made that turn when the economy crashed. So everything is exposed, and I think it's making it exciting, but talk about transparent. You know, we don't need mystery shoppers in our stores anymore because the experience is going to get blogged and tweeted. So we have to be better than ever, right?
And from a large retail perspective, when you look at a retail brand, you look at a brand like a Barney's or a Saks that have been around a while and have identities. You know, in the case of You know, you think about Saks and you think, I mean, I shopped there as a little girl with my mom. My grandmother shopped there, and you think about how it's evolved over time. Now you've got consumers who are talking about your brand and are not necessarily part of your own conversation. So how do you engage in that conversation and choose what actually gets brought in? Like, how do you filter that to say, you know what, they're right with this? Because consumer-generated voice, not necessarily always accurate.
They can make or break anything, on it, not just in the luxury retail sector. I think the most important thing you do is you pay attention to it, and you really have to get in.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know,
I was like hugely skeptical about it. I thought, this is ridiculous. Like Twitter and Twatter, and it's just annoying.
No, that's different.
And then
that's for the conversation after the cocktail party that we were talking about before.
I've had to change. I've had to surrender to it more, because as a marketing person, you know, you always try to look at numbers and rationalize everything. Like, you buy an ad in Glamour or Vogue because the circulation is X number of million. And then, so I was always a marketing person. When I got my job writing a column at The Observer, I thought, how many people read it? And I remember going home to Jonathan saying, oh, it's only 50,000 people. That's ridiculous. It's hardly worth doing. 50,000 people. I might as well be yelling out the window. And now, cut to 10 years later, 50,000 people say, oh, I've got 300 people following me on Twitter. Like, it's so fragmented and deranged that the old marketing rationales for things. I spent like a good 2 years trying to apply my marketing rationale, like thinking, why do I care about teen bloggers? Because how can they buy a $3,000 Lanvin dress? They just can't.
Well, they can.
And the thing is, they can. And I found out the sickest thing. Like, I've met all these young bloggers, and here's what I found out. Ready? It's shocking. Like, these young people that are fashion obsessed, who blog and tweet and Twitter and twaddle about fashion, they will kill their grandmother, sell her jewelry, starve themselves, not go on vacation, take their college fund, whatever, to buy a Celine bag. Like, they do constitute a meaningful customer base, and it's not
Different kind of meaning.
Yeah, and they literally are so fashion obsessed that they will make these extraordinary sacrifices in order to have a designer item. So as a retailer, I should be woo.
But until 3 years ago, they also could get charge cards.
Yeah.
So they could get, you know, my kids got credit cards in college, and I don't know where those came from. So it is, and that was one of the avenues. They used your name in your bank account, actually. I heard about that. But that was another avenue. As the customer base just started expanding, it kept getting younger in the luxury sector. And also, I think a lot of people during that real spending phase, they would shop at Costco and, you know, TJ Maxx so that they could drive a BMW or buy a Louis Vuitton handbag.